Okay. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. Welcome to Notacon. Oh, yes, of course. Well, my presentation is on Omega. My name is Morsi. I have been, this is a project I've been working on for a few years now. A small labor of love, just something that, I'm not really doing a business or anything off of it, just something I'm here just to hopefully grow the community, see if anyone's interested, anyone wants to, has project ideas that I could help tailor this towards. You can get to a hosted instance of the project by going to omegaverse.info. You can also find these slides at notacon.omegaverse.info. So, and then there's also the blog and everything. So, but if you just go to omegaverse.info, you'll be able to get to everything from there. And without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. So this is being rendered using the in live time using the rendering system. So I just figured it's the title screen to the project, just kind of a good way to show it off. Note that it's in the browser, and that is WebGL. So I'm going to go into all this in just a moment. So what is Omega? Put my phone on. That's a good question. Omega is a universe simulator. Omega is a reality simulator. Omega is a game engine. Omega is a physics engine. Omega is a lot more than that. Well, what does all that mean? Oh, that's a good question. Just so that I'm not, standing up here droning on and on for a long time, I brought a lot of swag. There's stickers, cards. Feel free to grab any of that at any point if anyone's interested. I also brought these keychains, which were laser engraved at the Syracuse University Hackerspace. Me and my friend Mark here were from Syracuse, New York. So, yeah, feel free to grab some stuff. I also have some science fiction trivia questions. So, yeah, let's see if anyone can get one of these. Here, there are, easy, medium, and hard difficulty. So let's try a medium one for now. In the famous cyberpunk epic Neuromancer, what is the main antagonistic family that owns the Freeside space station? Anyone? Anyone read Neuromancer? This is one of the hard ones, so I'm just kind of gauging things. All right, well, that's Tester Ashpool. So, oh, thanks. Well, yeah, that's fine. Well, how about an easier one? At Mars University, who was Philip J. Fry's roommate? Futurama fans? No one? No one?
Oh my god, I should know that one too.
Bender.
No, not Bender. The monkey?
Oh, the monkey with the hat made him fart?
Yes. His name was Gunter. Okay. All right, no worries. Oh, there's more, so hopefully, some that people know. But okay, so jumping right on back into the presentation. So what does Omega do? Omega does location tracking. Like, a good analogy to this would be GPS, but unlike the traditional GPS system, this does location tracking in 3D space. So I should mention at this point, Omega implements a client-server architecture. So using Omega, you can set up locations in 3D space, tie those locations to movement strategies, and those locations will automatically be moved in real time according to how you want them to move. Now, the client, this is all running on the server, so the client can disconnect and connect at will so that the locations are being managed, all on its own without the client having to maintain a persistent connection. Now, what are the semantics of those locations? Well, it's really up to the end user. Omega implements another subsystem which does cosmos tracking. So Omega will manage hierarchies of galaxies and planets and so on and so forth, each tied to a location and managed by the previous subsystem, and so that the user can query all that in real time. The Omega also implements a full role-based access control system, so you can limit the specific types of entities and the specific operations and so on and so forth to specific users which you want to grant those privileges to. Omega also implements kind of a more user-controlled subsystem, so ships, stations, loot, things like that you'll see in here. The purpose being that, the Cosmos is, the previous subsystem is more typically read-only. Maybe you'll want to create things on the fly as, depending on your game, what your simulation's going for. Maybe players are discovering new systems. But this is more kind of, you're using ships to attack other ships. You're using ships to extract resources and transfer them to stations where they're constructed. Another thing I should mention before going too far into this is Omega is all open source. Omega is licensed under the AGPL, which means that, if you make modifications, you have to release those modifications. But what that doesn't mean is that, it doesn't impose any restrictions on clients. So you can implement a proprietary client, you can implement open client, you can implement whatever client that interfaces with the simulation, sell it, not sell it, do whatever you want. And the nice thing is the core simulation mechanics are kind of ensured to be free. The AGPL, even if you run an AGPL software over a network, you still have to, and make changes, you still have to release those changes under the AGPL license. So that way, the core simulation will be free, people are able to expand and modify as they see fit, and then other people can consume that simulation as they see fit by writing clients to their needs. Missions. So Omega implements like a lot of kind of a subsystem that allows you to define custom hierarchies and sequences of events. So let's say you want, under certain conditions, the user can accept a mission, which, then trigger some ships to be created, and then watch out for, those ships if they're created, when they're destroyed, the user succeeds. The reason I put Shakespeare on the slide is, the Omega implements a lot of examples, and I'll show some of these off during the demo section. The main kind of storyline mission examples are based on Shakespearean works, so it's kind of essentially Shakespeare, but in space. So that's kind of the reason behind that. This is the actual simulation. You see this is a front end, this is one client running in the web browser, rendering the simulation in real time using WebGL. If you go to omegaverse.info, this is what you'll see. So this is just a very simple system. You see a star, some asteroids, a gate spinning here, and this is pretty much it. Now, obviously, you can have a client, a desktop client, a mobile client, all interfacing with this one universe, serving the needs of users as they see fit. You can also have bots that interact with the universe and control entities kind of dynamically and kind of, depending on the algorithms, customized sequences of events or workflows that the client wants to run. Okay, how's it done? How about time for another trivia question? In 2001 Space Odyssey, what planet was Discover 1 headed to? Anyone? I didn't think these were that hard. Jupiter, you got it. There you go. Oh, you win your can of soda back. Or, sorry, Mango Rita. Here's one. Hano Greedo, who shot first? Yeah, there you go. That was a kind of a humor one, but anyways. All right. I wish I brought more keychains and stuff to give out as prizes, but okay. So how is it done in the back end? JSON RPC. JSON RPC is like XML RPC, if you're familiar with that. It's essentially a remoting protocol. It allows one process to call methods in another process. So in XML RPC, you're sending XML strings. In JSON RPC, you're sending JSON strings, which is another string format, easy to parse, easy to read. And the server is responsible for taking those calls and then dispatching them to Omega. Those calls can come in over TCP, over HTTP, over WebSockets, over AMQP. Essentially, it's transport agnostic. So you can interact with this universe from wherever. You can have an iPhone device or Android device, communicating via REST or a TCP socket, and then on your internal network, you can have an AMQP bus that is a very high fault-tolerant messaging bus that is used for management, and so it really frees the technology to serving many purposes. Like I said before, role-based access control, limit what you want to who you want to allow to do it. WebSockets and WebGL. That's the front end is implemented that, and it implements a rich domain-specific language. Now, DSLs are often seen in Ruby. I should mention that the server is implemented in Ruby, whereas the client is implemented in JavaScript. DSLs are ways to describe a problem set, a kind of it's a way to break a language down or to provide features of language, provide features to a specific problem set through a language. And I'll explain that in just a short bit, what that means in a short bit. And it's also open source, as I mentioned before. So, well, I'll explain it what it is right now. So here you can see an example use of the Omega DSL to create a galaxy named Zeus, a system under that named Athena, a planet under that named Aesop with the specific orbit, specified orbit. This would reside in a flat text file. You would run this file, by the command line. These are just method calls that get dispatched to a running Omega simulation to create those entities. Here you have a DSL call to create a user ship of the specified type and the specified system. You notice I'm using the same method call system to retrieve the system as well as to create it. The DSL is kind of smart like that. It will know if it will first try to retrieve what you're querying. It'll try to retrieve a system named Athena. If it doesn't exist, it'll create it with specified parameters. All with the intent of making it very human, very easy to read, easy to maintain. That's the idea behind Ruby. For those who are familiar with the language, it should be programmer friendly. Here we're using the domain-specific language to move a ship to a random location, to dock it to a station, to mine a selected resource, to attack another ship, and so on and so forth. You can see here how you can start scripting bots right from the command line to interact with that universe in real time. And here you have an example of a mission. Here it's creating a mission with a new ID, a title. Now missions specify callbacks. Like I said, they're customized workflows. So here you see a few callbacks. Now, for security reasons, and we're at a hacker conference, so I have to mention that I really, from day one, focused on security as far as this. You can never prove that something's flawless, without bugs. But for case in point, you don't want the client, because this is going to be communicating with the server. To create the mission. This is a script that would execute on the client side. You don't want that specifying blocks of code to the server. Obviously, that's not a good thing, client sending code to be run without checks or anything like that. So this is just the mission subsystem specifies a ton of kind of these little snippets of code. So here, for example, you see schedule expiration events when the assignment is called. And that's just a little block of code that exists on the server that the client can reference. And that just does a simple little thing. In this case, when the mission timeout comes up, invalidate the mission. When the mission's assigned, subscribe to the entity destroyed. Whenever an entity is destroyed, in these conditions, check the victory, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, you can, from here we can develop automated tooling to kind of graphically set up these things and set up workflows of these missions and sequences and whatnot. So this should be rendering. I'm not sure why it's not. Why it's so dark. Let me. Oh, weird. Well, anyways, my laptop is going a bit of strain right now, but it's not the best system. So here's just an example cutscene, right, rendered within the game engine. That's pretty much what Omega is. You have a couple ships flying towards a station, and the choppiness, again, it's my laptop. It's not a simulation. I have the WebGL on the back end and all that stuff running. And there's music, too, and I'm not talking in this, I realize. But. The WebGL is, the audio is also being driven by HTML5. So it's all pretty modern as far as the standards which are incorporated. Okay, So here's just kind of an overall architecture, what I was talking about before. We use the Ruby JSON RPC library to both on the server side to dispatch the JSON RPC requests over the multiple transports. And we also use the client side libraries to issue the requests via the Omega DSL, the Omega JavaScript client via the user's web browser and whatnot. Very standard, simple stuff. Okay, demo time. So I'm going to kill the running server. I'm going to start up again. So the server process is just Omega server. All the source code is available on GitHub. There will be a link to it at the very end. So I'm saying, let me show you that again. Ruby -I lib, that includes lib on the load path, and just running the server. And you'll get a bunch of debugging information. You can turn that off via the config. Here I'll run a script to seed the server. Oh, it should be turned down to Ruby. And you see it's doing what it says. And then I can access the simulation I just set up. Here we go. And some of these locations are random, so if it's not, intentionally random. But there you go. Click around, click on different entities, and then I can log in. Now, all this data was created in that Cedar script that I just ran. The universe by default is pretty blank. Oh, that's not good. It is definitely a work in progress. So, should be moving. Let's try a different ship. There it goes. I don't know. So yeah, definitely. I'm not claiming that it's 100% stable, but yeah, it's labor of love. So yeah, it's just kind of see some simple interactions via the web browser. Also, we can run a simple bot via the command line. Oh, I have to specify for a couple parameters. The user I want to run the bot as, and this says run the miner. And I go back to the web browser. Go to the user that I just ran, and you see how I didn't even issue the move command to that. It's moving. So it's kind of both are interacting with the same universe. Here you have the view. You're watching it run, and here you can have this bot doing whatever you want. This bot isn't outputting anything. It's just running silently. And that's about it. Now, there's a lot of, as far as that, there's a lot of command line kind of utility tools that you can use to kind of debug your universe and to play around with things. So if you go in the bin util directory, you see Omega status, which will just dump out just a bunch of status pertaining to a running simulation. Omega monitor is comes up. Ncurses-based interface, so you can have your simulation running, your bots running. You see kind of overall view, kind of and it periodically refreshes. You can hook tests into it. The small little bug, the failed one should be in red, but and so on and so forth. There's a kind of a complete rich command line interface. So if people are familiar with Ruby, there's a couple of interactive Ruby terminals. The main one is IRB. There's another one called Pry. It's nice. I like it a lot. So you can, issue requests right from the command line. Motel is the location tracking subsystem. Trying to type while looking backwards. And there you go. And then you can do what you want. You can specify additional parameters onto this. And these requests are all being issued over JSON RPC to the server in real time. So you're querying the universe in real time. There you go. And there's a lot in here you can play around with if you're so inclined. Oh, I think this is the name of one. Oh, hold area. There you go. So you can see how you can interact with the simulation as you see fit, from the command line, from the web browser, from whichever location. And just one last thing in the demo, I wanted to show you some of these scripts that use the DSL. If you go in the examples directory, here's the Shakespeare one. You can see it's setting up some users, setting up some ships and stations, and then it's using the DSL to create some missions and so on and so forth. There's just a ton of examples. Here's one creating a universe. The intent is these things should be easy to write, easy to debug, easy to maintain right from the command line, right from your text editor, and so on and so forth. Okay. Questions so far? Anything? Yeah.
Can you design your own ship?
Yes, but right now Omega doesn't have any tooling itself, but the mesh format is it's easy to generate meshes for it. So the WebGL library that we use is called 3.js, and that has a mesh exporter script that you can use directly from Blender. It's a plugin for Blender, so you can create a ship in Blender, export it, and then drop it in the right location. So yes, but at some point I would like to write specific tools just for make it easy. Right now the ships. I'm not sure if people are familiar with the Vega Strike game. It's another open source space sim. Those are models from that. So you can literally take those models. They're all licensed under the GPL, so it's all fair. And I fully attribute them. Yeah, and then just import them into Blender. Modify them to your heart's content. Export them and create your own universe. So if you have any kind of people have some sort of fandoms that, hey, I want to see, some Star Wars versus Star Trek versus, I shouldn't be saying stuff like this on camera, but whatever. Yeah, it's just some specific fandoms, some specific universe that they want to create. Yeah, this can be used to do that. So where are we going with this? Well, hopefully we'll get to this point eventually. Let's grab this image off of Wikipedia. Where are we now? Well, a little ways away from that, but another image I grabbed off of Wikipedia. How to get there? That's a good question. Unlike what this image is conveying, I'm not in it for profit. I'm just, I would love to form kind of a network of these simulations. That's kind of what I'm going for. I just want to see this project kind of take off and interact with different systems, and I think there's a lot of potential here. But the project could use, obviously developers, people to get the word out, new users, artists, people that are interested in setting up stories and missions of their own, and just anyone that's has an idea which they could use a universe for, this should potentially be able to be used for that. All right, well, a lot of people have this slide at the beginning. I include it at the end just because it doesn't really matter much. My name is Morsi, like I said before. I'm a software engineer at Red Hat, so I've been working there for about 7 years now. Great job. I love the company. I love my work. I'm very involved with the Ruby community at Red Hat, and also in Fedora and whatnot. I also helped found the Syracuse Hackerspace, SIG 315. I'm not on the board anymore, but I try to stay very involved. Support your local hackerspace. You know, I very much support of the movement. I'm a huge Rubyist. You know, I love the language. I'm not a zealot. You know, I use Python. I use many other languages, but I love Ruby. And I'm a fan of peer-to-peer technologies. There's actually one more bullet. And I'm a gamer. So, you know, I'm a firm believer if you want to do something, you have to be immersed in it. So whether it's on my PlayStation with GTA or, you know, I'm also a big NetHack fan. So, you know, admittedly, I haven't ascended yet. So, but I'm still working towards it. You know, still diving into the mazes of menace. But yeah, that's about it. So thanks for coming to my presentation, everyone. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to pull me aside at any point. Like I said, you can get to the project via my GitHub. There's, you know, it's mostly been me, but there's definitely other people who've been working on it or interested in the project. There's a student. I participated. I mentored in the Google Code-In a couple summers back, and one of the students I mentored in Argentina, yeah, he was just interested, and he's just sending patches. So, yeah, if it sounds interesting to you, you know, always looking for more stars and watchers on GitHub, you know, whatever that means. And you know, feel free to drop me an email. We also have like an IRC a mailing list, an IRC channel, and whatnot. Yeah, I'm very open, you know, as far as questions and helping people and stuff. And like I said before, you can get to the demo at omegaverse.info. Feel free to visit anytime. So, any questions or anything? Or okay. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Notacon.